just giving others time to come in. It says I'm live. It says I'm recording. I'm not sure because I'm trying something different, because every time I was had YouTube up as well, there's a lag in the... So let's see. Not sure if my comment even made. I guess I'm gonna have to go ahead and open up YouTube to see if anybody could post a comment in. I'm not sure if it's showing. Let's see. It says recording, it says live, so we'll go ahead and give others some time to work their way in. Get things set up here. Let's see how we can get this. It's so awkward to be able to see everything with OBS. Alright, go ahead and still take, I'm not quite sure, it doesn't, the chat didn't work the same as it did with YouTube because of the lag. So let's see what I can figure out. I should be able to see that I'm in a live. Let's see. Alright, so we'll go ahead and get things going. Alright, so welcome. This is Christine Bundy, State Coordinator, Lead Recording Secretary for the Indiana Assembly. And I want to welcome you to the call this evening. First things first, we want to go ahead and take a moment to honor our Creator. All right. We'll go ahead and get things going here. All right, we're going to start with the, we're going to go ahead and go through a couple of articles. This is somewhat of a topic I'm not really, it's not something I'm really, it's not something I enjoy doing, but it's something that has to be done because apparently there are still many out there that that aren't clear on things. So we'll go ahead and go through some of these articles. In the presentation, there are the links that are there for it. You can find them at searchonavonrights.com. That is an amazing tool to be able to help you with doing topic searches to search through her 4,000 plus articles. So this article is Article 3237. You got three choices. You can join American State Assembly in your state, declare that you're an American, which to most of us is the obvious fact, and identify yourself as a free man or a woman who is owed all the guarantees of the respective federal constitutions. This is the organization that Americans need to support and belong to in order to enforce their constitutional guarantees and receive the protection of the public law. That's choice number one. Okay, and also just as a pause, so it's in the recording, trying to do where, because I've noticed with some other YouTubers that instead of having a saved live thing that they go ahead and wait and created at the time that they go into the live call, and then that way those that have subscribed will get notification that it's there. All right, so we'll go ahead and keep moving forward. Okay, so you can join the territorial district assembly in your state and declare by doing so that you're a British territorial U.S. citizen, a taxpayer, a subject of the Queen, and that you are working in some capacity, such as a warrant officer in the British Merchant Marine Service, aka Internal Revenue Agent, and are merely here as a resident while working for this foreign British-controlled government. Pay attention, resident. Many want to use that term resident. Okay, and that's what, and when you get a state-issued driver's license, then you're considered a resident of the state of Indiana. The word district always indicates a foreign government and political structure based out of the District of Columbia. That's choice number 2. Or you can join the municipal district assembly nearest to you where you live and declare by doing so that you are a slave and a municipal citizen of the United States who is voluntarily working in the service of the Roman Pontiff's municipal United States government and donating all that you are and all that you have to it. This too admits that you are a taxpayer working within a municipal enclave of the District of Columbia and staying here as a resident on a temporary basis while working for this foreign theocracy. That's choice number 3. Make this one a little bit better. An American state national by your state of the Union at the same time as you work for some branch of the federal government. Let's see, did that move? Oh, it switched. Pardon. Start over here and I'll update the PDF. So now that you know what the 3 choices are, what the choices mean, you're in a far better position to determine which group you naturally belong to. But wait a minute. You say that, yes, you are an American, but many federal and federated state of state and county employees initially feel that they are in a big dilemma because most of the people working for these foreign governments are in fact Americans. Fear not, the federales allow dual citizenship or dual political status, and while our states allow only one such political status, you can choose to be recognized as an American state national by your state of the Union at the same time as you work for some branch of the federated government. This extends the constitutional guarantees to you and offers you the protection of public law if you claim it even while working for a district government, department, or agency of one of these many foreign incorporated governmental service providers. Thus, an American working for either the territorial United States, which is military employees and dependents, or the municipal United States, federal service employees and dependents. Federal service employees, that's postal service workers, right? Or federated state of state or federated county employees can retain their constitutional guarantees and protections, but must declare and record their underlying status as an American state national to do so. You go to your state assembly and identify yourself as an American state national and clock in by declaring and recording your political status as an American. You can then participate in the American State Assembly and vote on local and state issues, or you can participate in the other 2 available district organizations. Many federated government employees and government dependents feel more at home in district assemblies, and they are welcome to join them and participate in the political party system and all the rest of the foreign foofara. Just remember, by participating in the foreign district assemblies and joining their political parties, you admit that you're either A, a British territorial indentured servant, a subject of the Queen and taxpayer, or a municipal slave, subject to the Roman pontiff and the all caps taxpayer. These foreign political statuses, U.S. citizen and municipal citizens of the United States, carry responsibilities and privileges, not rights. With them, including the obligation to give up your right to own land as an American. That gets donated to the Queen or the Pope. The obligation to pay their mortgage on your tenant habitation. The obligation to vote on their foreign political elections. The obligation to pay taxes of all kinds. The obligation to know and obey more than 80 million rules, codes, and statutes. Seems like a lot of losses and onerous duties to accept in exchange for a paycheck consisting of promissory notes, IOUs, but who are we to make your choices for you, right? And we all know that that the countries around the world now have decided to no longer accept the U.S. dollar. All right, so let me take a moment, see. All right, we got a comment. Right on. Hey, welcome. Welcome, Linda on Lake. Haven't seen you in a while, dear. Oh, it's the lag. I don't know how far the lag is. But, okay. So, all right. Good. Welcome. And Linda, Lake County is growing. I'm telling you. It's on fire there. So, we'll go ahead and... So, evidently, notifications are popping in. Great. Great, great, great. Okay, so let me go ahead and get back. We'll keep things going here. Oops, gotta have the right tab up. All right, so for all coordinators, now the American way. Now this article is Article 3245 for all coordinators the American way. Again, this is at searchonavonrights.com. And it will direct you, it'll redirect to searchonavonrights.americanstatenationals.org. And then you can search there through her over 4,000 articles, topic search. Okay, so for all coordinators, the American way. It's becoming apparent that the influx of new people isn't being handled well enough in terms of sorting and shunting. We've been trying to save everyone, but some people just don't want to take up the burdens of self-governance. They want a corporate structure and a top-down government that tells them what to do and how to do it and which nursemaids them 24/7. They want a king or a manager or a director or a coordinator sitting up on top dictating and taking responsibility for their every move, and that just isn't the American way. We need to get serious about talking to new recruits and giving them the 3 choices up front, which that's what we've already went through the first article here, so that they know what their options are and can sort out for themselves where they need to be. Here are the 3 choices. Choice 1, join your American State Assembly, stand up as an American and declare and record your political status as someone who is self-governing and owed all the constitutional guarantees and all proper exemptions, build up your state assembly, and enjoy the protection of the public law. Be responsible for your American government and its proper functioning. Live up to being worthy of independence. Choice 2, join the local district assembly. Accept the status of a British subject and agree to give up your land and other material possessions to the Queen to use as chattel property. Relinquish your constitutional guarantees. Agree to be counted as a British territorial U.S. citizen and live under foreign statutory law, either as a ward of the state or as an indentured servant. Give up responsibility for your government and do whatever you're told to do. Choice 3. Join the local municipal district assembly. Accept the status of a papist municipal citizen of the United States. Give all natural rights, titles, and interests you have to the Pope. And agree to act as a slave belonging to the Roman municipal government. Be liable for all the debts of the U.S. Inc. and be subject to all municipal laws, codes, and statutes, both written and unwritten. Give up all constitutional guarantees and all responsibility for governing yourself, and do whatever you are told to do. Next, we need to give them the straight up news that our assemblies don't function like corporations. There is no chief executive officer, no strict compartmentalization, no rising through the ranks. We do things in terms of functions, and everyone works together. They need to firmly understand this and understand that we conduct our business through committees, that our chairmen are spokespersons, not CEOs, and we take responsibility for getting the assembly set up and working. Okay, so pay attention. We do the business, work through committees. There are not separate side meetings held to discuss things while still having the shielding of the assembly, but yet you actually really aren't trying to support the assembly. You work through the committees supporting the assembly. If they're going to act as Americans, they should not expect or demand endless hand-holding. The information is there for them in You Know Something Is Wrong When. And many, many searchable articles and other books. As Americans, they will be expected to show initiative and learn about their own history and government and to teach others, to help support in these training calls. Okay? Gossiping, power-mongering, deceit, malfeasance, scamming, stealing, obstruction, causing conflict, infighting, suggesting or planning violence of any kind, commandeering meetings, disrupting the smooth flow of business, verbally or physically threatening or otherwise abusing other people in the assembly, are all causes for disciplinary action, removal from public meetings, and loss of attendance for a period of time. We're trying to get away from the violence and competitiveness of the corporations and build a family and community-centered government based on the principles expressed by the Declaration of Independence. Suggest that newcomers take the time to sit down and read the Declaration of Independence so they have a renewed vision of what their government is about and the evils it is intended to prevent. Please explain that assembling an assembly has 6 principal goals. 1. Educate, educate, educate. 2. Declare and record political status. 3. Participate in the General Assembly and discuss in-state issues. 4. If eligible to act as a state citizen at this time, participate in the International Business Assembly to decide interstate and foreign issues. 5. Build up and staff your public court system. Serve as jurors. 6. Build up and staff your assembly militia. And if you'll notice, those that are at least papered up, that are coming to the assembly calls, and then those that do see the recordings afterwards for the assembly call and the agendas, will see that we have been putting forward the 4 pillars to be able to support getting the court up and moving and getting the militia going in addition to the business. All right. This effort begins first, last, and always with educating more and more Americans about their history, the law, and government so they can restore the government they are owed and operate it responsibly. If they're whining and fearful and overwhelmed and not willing to take on the challenges of Reconstruction, show them the 3 choices again. And if they don't think it's their cup of tea, by all means encourage them to go down the street and join the district assembly or the municipal assembly instead. Better that than to welcome them in and have to fight with their corporate indoctrination and dependency syndrome for the next 10 years. We offer them back their inheritance along with the responsibility that goes with it. We have to expect that some people like or need the comfortable slavery of the nanny state and are unwilling to accept the challenges of self-governance. All right, so take a second. Comments. Let's see. All right. Oh, good to see you. Yes. Greetings, Fort Wayne. Awesome. Peace and love. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. All right, we'll keep right on going here. Okay. Warning signs that you have district infiltrators. Again, here are the links that will be in the presentation. I'll have posted on the website, and I'll have it in the description before I get started with this one. I'm trying something different because I've Zoom and OBS, depending on what the call is for, because I'm trying to ensure that I have a recording still for the assembly to be able to maintain the records for the assembly. Because YouTube, it saves it directly to YouTube, and then somebody has to come behind and download to still then upload. So this way it already saves that it's saves it to my computer, and then I can upload it to Mega and then pop the links out for that. Well, YouTube and Zoom and OBS, like Sunday evening, everything crashed, so about 20 minutes in, so I ended up, I wasn't getting back on the call. It just wasn't letting me get back into the call. So had to end up just ending the call because of the tech issues. So I've still got to figure things out. But anyway, so I tried this time because beforehand I had been creating the live, the schedule thing for it through YouTube, but it wasn't always connecting correctly in, so it wasn't connecting in. Things weren't working right. So this time I was trying it this way because I noticed with some other YouTubers that they will wait until they go ahead and create the call at the time, and then those that are subscribers will get notification that they're on to be able to come in. Trying it, see how this works. So please bear with me as I am trying to work through trying to make things a little bit easier for everybody. And work through these crazy tech issues. Okay. Excuse me. Let me take a moment for a drink. Again, I told you this is a topic I'm not really pleased to have to talk about, but it is necessary because it is an ongoing thing that I'm constantly dealing with. So it's helping others to see and get clear first, okay? We're not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. We're here to get the work done. All right. And if you're not ready to do the work, if all the other fears are more important to you, and you feel more comfortable, in those worlds, then by all means be in those worlds. Okay. But it's a time you have to come to a point in time that you have to stop lying to yourself as well and get clear on what your real status is. Okay. Okay, so the warning signs that you have district infiltrators are coordinators who have had to deal with district-minded people coming into our state assemblies and causing trouble for our efforts, came up with a list of warning signs to look out for as you defend your state assembly and your decision to live as Americans. These characters have a known modus operandi, which includes attack the leaders, coordinator, Anna, James. If you don't know who James is, that's James Belcher. He is the head of state and Anna's husband. and it's James, the Belcher family that saved, had the actual seals, great seals for America through the years. 2, attack the foundational elements, which are the paperwork process, the assembly process. This is a big key here. Some don't want to do the paper. For some reason, they slightly alter the paperwork. They want to modify the paperwork, even though it's had several eyes over it, ensuring it, as well as it, Anna's and the Living Law team on it as well. So, but there are those that want to come in because they think they know better and want to modify the paperwork. They want to try and slide in other paperwork. They'll come from other groups where they'll have affirmations that they want to, or affidavits that they want to include. And Americans do not do affidavits. We do affirmations in the form of a affidavit, but it's an affirmation as Americans. Or assembly process. The biggest key that I have discovered with the assembly process is they'll go through all the paperwork, but when it comes to the part for the security protocols, that's where many of them they'll do little dances around thinking that they're going to maybe distract me. And, thinking of doing some other things and getting, trying to show some effort that they want to get some things moving and think that they can just, use the assembly and the assembly resources. But they haven't finished the process. They have to if you're going to actively support the assembly, you have to finish the process. That means you also have to be completely armored up. And many get to that point because it's real easy to do the paperwork. But then when it comes to the point of completing a participation member agreement, some want to drag on that one. And then there are those that want to, don't want to do the background check. Pretty simple. Okay. You've got to, if you're wanting to, support here, we've got to have a little bit of trust with you as well, but you're wanting everybody else to follow security procedures. Okay, so we can play all these dances back and forth. It's not going to change it. I'm going to uphold what I'm supposed to do, and this is why, because we have those out there that will try. They think they're coming with the different angle, with the different way of trying to get in to try and access contact information to nationals when they have not completed the security procedure processes themselves. But yet they want to go ahead and get access to nationals information, and they want to use assembly resources, but yet they don't want to stand to say, they don't want to give their saying, I am supporting the assembly, I am giving my allegiance. Well, then why are you trying everything else and playing it? You're just wasting my time, because I'm still going to tell you, gotta have a background check. Gotta have a background check. It's part of the process. 3, attack any progress made so far. Many are quick to complain, and they have done nothing to support in any way. But they want to make sure that they've find every little thing to try and complain about. Attack assembly ability to make money. We are all volunteers. So many, because if the recording secretary for the assembly is the notary on the paperwork, then the recording fee is received, so that supports also ink. It supports copy paper, and it supports postage, because many do not send return envelopes. They expect that it'll just get sent back. Many do not include or even think about additional copies, or they'll send additional copies and want all of them done, and still you make an extra copy. So many are wanting to quickly jump up, to support as a notary, in order to be able to help support in that way. But we've got to be very clear on what we're doing here. 5, divide and conquer. Many want to try and start pulling together, getting groups together so that they can start gossiping and casting doubt with each other. They want to accuse others of what they're actually doing themselves. Many a times they'll try to throw out and say, I'm doing something, where I literally end up going in and copy and paste their own response, that it was directly from them. Attempt to set up a gravy train out of assembly members. Many want to go ahead and they try to go ahead and set up things that they can set up their own separate process for a pay. I'll take care of it for you, and set up a separate thing. But yet still hadn't connected in with the assembly. Hold secret meetings and have private agendas. And many want to use this is where they want to use their connections with the assembly to try and connect with others to hold secret meetings so that they can have private agendas that are separate from the assembly's work, the mission that we've been given by the Federation. They'll want to hijack meeting agendas, impose censorship. Lead with ego, me, I. Elect themselves into several different offices. Attempt to create conflict and fight. Polarize everything into sides. Refuse to work cooperatively. To which I would add, and this is still in the article, seek this. So this is from Anna's point of adding. Seek to control assembly assets, records, seals, websites. Avoid oversight of their activities. Complain about the coordinator's role. Immoral honeypot schemes and actions. Seduction of... That one I have... but Anna has experienced this, so I'm reading this from Anna's. Seduction of others' husbands and wives, especially targeting assembly officials. Which that experience had occurred on another state. Talk about states' rights, but don't honor states' responsibilities, like support of the Federation of States. They talk about states' rights, go on and on and on, and I go, okay, well, what would you like to do to be able to help about it? How can you help? Head down. They want to complain, they talk, but they don't want to do the walk. Americans, their talk is in alignment with their walk. U.S. citizens talk out of both sides of their mouth and walk in every direction possible. That's what I've learned. Attempt to sell information about our assemblies and members for profit. Advocate high fees for simple services. Ooze disapproval and superiority. Snub attitude, brag about their IQs, use obvious insulting fake names, sneak around collecting data. Many like to, that's where it got to where for Zoom calls, we had to go to one, of course, you have to at least be papered up to be in on the Zoom call. And if you're going to be on the Zoom call, have your camera on. We're Americans. We look at each other. We face each other. We're not hiding from each other. We don't always look our greatest every day. It's been a long day at work, right? We got to have, but we're brothers and sisters. We're here as family. Get over it. If it's more important how you look, get over it. Then I guess you do probably belong somewhere else. It's time to start actually being Americans. Stop worrying about all the artificial. Okay. are preachy and drag religion into our assembly business, show no respect for separation of church and state, refer to our state assembly as an ecclesia or other theocratic form of government, which it is not. Advocate various forms of insurrection against the lawful government. Creation of new states out of existing states, formation of unauthorized security forces using committees of safety and contingency planning to promote violence, are hypercritical and down on everything that advances the Assembly's efforts to learn and grow and establish the needed organizational structures. Are attention seekers, always trying to make everything about them and their concerns and their questions and their issues at the expense of everyone else. That has happened. We've experienced that here on Indiana, where some have turned their questions into where it's changed the whole tone of the conversation. And it's always it's always already going to be a difficulty and tension already weaved in, because we're trying to communicate through the technical devices. So YouTube is already on a lag, and then it's trying to communicate through chat because some don't want to be on a call face to face and don't want to actually talk to anybody, so they would rather hide behind and complain through their calling. So, that's because they're still worried and fearful of their own concerns, and we're here about taking care of business. These troublemakers may be doing this consciously as federal agents, or they may be so indoctrinated that they can't let go of the corporate model and embrace the American way of doing things. Gently suggest to them that they may feel more at home in the local district assembly. If they don't reform and get with the program, again, this is Anna's words from her article. If they don't reform and get with the program, put them on a timeout for 3 to 6 weeks and encourage them to study more. If they still persist, return their paperwork with the seals and dates and numbers crossed out and cross their names off the assembly list. We want to bring home as many Americans as we can, but we don't have to put up with foreign agendas, obstruction, or interference. We are here to play chess. If they want to play a different game, they're welcome to do so. They just have to go somewhere else for that. All right. Now, these are dictionary terms, so in Wikipedia. So you'll be able to look these up, and they are definitions. Agent provocateur and infiltrators. Definition of agent provocateur: one employed to associate with suspected persons, and by pretending sympathy with their aims to incite them to some incriminating action. And they're doing it against their own brother and sister, but they took the pay for it, so they're willing to do it. Examples of agent provocateur in a sentence. The government used agent provocateurs to try to undermine the opposition party. Recent examples on the web at the same time, agent provocateurs played a significant role in the turbulence. Adam Hochschild, The New Yorker, November 4th of 2001. And here's a Wikipedia definition for agent provocateur. Infiltrator is a noun. Synonyms of infiltrator: as an informer, stool pigeon. Synonyms or near synonyms for infiltrator: informer, stool pigeon, counter spy, double agent, sleeper, spy master, super spy, courier, agent, asset, emissary, intelligence, mole, intelligencer, mole, operative, spook, spy, undercover. Then you have those that are the lurkers. One that lies hidden in or as if in ambush. Lurker in the shadows. It troubled me that there should have been a lurker on the stairs on that night of all nights in the year. A quote from Charles Dickens. There are those that are trolls that just don't want to do anything to present themselves appropriately, but they like to comment in all caps, and they want to get to know people and go face to face with people, but they don't want to present who they are honorably. So you can go find U.S. citizens that are willing to hide with you. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and read the Declaration of Independence. Let me check first real quick. Comments. Hey, Jeff, welcome, Marion County. Welcome. Glad to see you, Jeff. Or kind of see you, chatting. All right, we're going to go through the Declaration of Independence. It is short. It is very succinct, clear to the point. It's not like the Constitution that has to get even more detailed. And what's not covered in the Constitution was left to the states. And what's not in the Declaration of Independence was left to the states. All right, so in Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous Declaration of the 13 United States of America. Now let me pause right here. If you'll notice, it does not actually say Declaration of Independence. It says the unanimous, which means everyone, all of them, Declaration of the 13 United States of America. Okay? We're the States of America, not United States. We're States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, and in this time, when they use the word men, they're using men and women. Men, the term men is gender neutral in this context, are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, not unalienable rights, unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, and that's just among these, in those rights. That's not all of it. These are just among the rights. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers. That means only the powers they were given, not anymore. Just the powers they were given from the consent of the governed, the people, the consent of the people. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles, and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind, again, gender neutral in the usage, are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. I was watching, my husband and I, pardon a pause at the moment. This is a key example of this, because you really need to have real life examples to see how relevant this document is today. Okay, my husband and I, well, it's more so my husband, but I do listen Tim Cast, and he's clear that we are all free, but yet he believes there should be an equal tax. And I'm like, you haven't gotten it yet, because the whole thing is there should be no tax. So he's still in the mindset to put himself right back in, even though he's also agreeing the IRS needs to be shut down, but he's agreeing there should be a flat tax across the board. And that's only because he's in a higher tax bracket, so he's feeling it. So that's why he would prefer to have a equal tax bracket, which wouldn't be fair to those that aren't in the same, in a higher tax bracket. But anyway, again, not seeing because they're still stuck in the indoctrination and the programming, and they can't get themselves out of these forms they're accustomed to. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it's their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. We have the duty to do this. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. All right. Let's see how much of this is actually relevant today. And I'm going to go ahead and convert the gender of he to they, and then that means then the verbs are changed to the plural tense. Okay, they have refused their assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for public good. They have forbidden their governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till their assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, they have utterly neglected to attend to them. There's a VP out there that hasn't done the job at all, right? They have refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. Right? Because then that's how they feel they have power. They've called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with their measures. What did they do with the whole COVID-19 period? They have dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness their invasions on the rights of the people. They've refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. Now, what people, side note, what people aren't realizing, Carrie Lake, she's got a big opportunity. She was given the opportunity finally for the courts to, it was kicked back to a lesser court, of course, but it was that they were going to go ahead and they threw out most of them. But all that's needed is one, and that is enough that once there's equal footing in all the states, and then all the elections can be rolled back. Pay attention, people. A lot is happening. They have endeavored to prevent the population of these states, right? They put you as a resident of the U.S. As opposed to populating your soil. And that's what you do when you are, once you are on the land, you're populating your soil. For that purpose, obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migration hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. So that's got, we know we're already dealing with the border walls, things like that. They have obstructed the administration of justice by refusing their assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. Supreme Court, they only like to pop their head out every once in a while, but they got that seat for life and they're getting a paycheck for life. It's time for them to stand up and do some work now. They've been hiding behind their robes too long. They've made judges dependent on their will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries, because they've also worked out deals. They're all in bed with each other. They're all taking deals. Everybody is taking a deal. You got rental companies that are, when their tenants don't pay and they take them to court, the court automatically always goes with them because they're all in bed together. Because that court's guaranteeing, they want to make sure they're getting money out of it too. They've erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. How many people? My husband, he works it's through a temp agency, but for Toyota, and he says that there's many a times where the sheriff are sitting outside of the parking lot waiting for them to pull out because they can't come on international land because that space is international, which I'm highly upset that nobody at the state level said, hey, you're foreign, you shouldn't be on this land. But then we got to hear about all the people that have jobs, and my family too being supported by this. So it's the situation we're in. We got to think about everything. It's a truly Shrek's onion that's layered, right? They have kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. I know for a fact that during the time of the whole shutdown experience, my husband and I, we were living in downtown Indian Speedway area on the west side of town there, and right after Penske bought the track there, the racetrack, military were allowed to pull in that parking lot right across the track, and they set up all their testing sites right out there for weeks and weeks and weeks. That's called having standing armies kept among us without our consent and without consent of legislature. But they put it under the guise of for safety. Yeah, you're right, it's safety because they're killing people. Okay, get a little. And I put out I shared a video on that where a few times where I had driven we had gone by and that was out there, and then when they literally overnight packed up, gone, so they were never there because the new season was actually getting ready to kick off and Penske had to get some things get things going. He had said he had played the game long enough, and so he booted them out. And they literally packed up overnight. We watched it. It literally was. I mean, we didn't stay up overnight to watch them, but we had just gone in the night before, and the very next day we go in and all the tents, portable tents, everything were gone. The generators, everything. But that is called having standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. They've affected to render the military independent of and superior to civil power. Think about that one. They've combined with others to subject us to jurisdictions foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving their assent to their acts of pretended legislations. Because they spend a lot of time in their committees where they're trying to ask questions that are far beyond the scope of what they have the authority to ask, just to keep the dance going so that they can look like they've done something when they haven't really they've just stalled the process. For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, again, that was, and there are army bases around, right? For protecting them by a mock trial. What happens in those courtrooms every day? It's a mock trial. From punishment for any, and they're free from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states. For cutting off our trade with all parts of the world. If you noticed, for decades, very rarely would you see a product out there that had any other country on it when it said made in. And it even got to where very rarely did you even see made in USA. It really started out as made in America, and they morphed that too because they used the excuse that it was shorting it for printing so that you can be able to use it. You know, it's just quicker, save space and everything. But it was a way to trump you out of saying don't say America anymore and start calling US. Just little tips of how it's just been going on constantly. And that the one country, 5 letters, right? Very rarely did you see anything. I mean, people would get a little upset if they saw something that said made in Mexico. They were getting upset about it. But if you also noticed, it was a regular running joke. At least it was with us because we had, at the time, 3 young children. You get you can't buy expensive toys when you got 3, so you try to do what you can to be able to get all 3 children toys, and the toys break before you even get home, right? And then you've already spent that money, so you're either then going to just go ahead and bite the bullet, go buy another one, or it's done, right? But we allowed quality to just go right out the window because of it. But we can't you weren't seeing products from other parts of the world, and that's why the prices just kept steadily going up, because when you have other countries being able to participate in the trade, that helps keep the prices at a equitable balance, because it's staying in balance with everything at that point. For imposing taxes on us without our consent. That's pretty clear, right? They've forbidden their governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance. Oh, I did a duplicate of that, didn't I? Yep. I thought I did when I was doing that, but I was doing it on the laptop, and I know better than to do mobile. So that was a second. Okay, so this should be, okay. I will update the PDF on that. So those were 26 and 7 to delete. That's why it's not always great to do things on mobile. Even I was telling my husband, commenting about how people are trying to do their 928s on their cell phone. I'm like, it's already the hardest tool in the world ever possible to use a cell phone anyway, and you want to do your 928. But okay, that's you. All right. And that's kind of like, that's part of that indoctrination of putting yourself, you're trying to free yourself as you're putting yourself into a somewhat of a prison of trying to do the paperwork yourself. Okay, so for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury. Right? How many times? There's no jury. You have to really be assertive in that, right? For transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses. This is where they use, this is trafficking. This is where they'll bring in an attorney from another state. Because we're nations. We're different. We're like countries within ourselves as well. And when you bring in an attorney, a lawyer from Kentucky, you've now crossed lines, and you're trying to get them involved. And all pretended offenses is just a tax crime. They're just trying to find a way to tax, right? For abolishing the free systems of English laws in a neighboring province. What did they do in Illinois, right? They're allowing anyone to just come in and take over somebody's house if they want to, right? For abolishing the free system of English laws in neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government. What did they do with City of Indianapolis and the state of Indiana, or the county of Marion? County of Marion and City of Indianapolis became a unigov literally overnight. Thank you, Senator Lugar. That never went to the people for a vote, was never approved. They set it up overnight, opened the doors the next day, and overnight they literally went to a first class city, and it's been that way ever since. And Indianians, especially Marion County and those that live in Indianapolis, have the right to stand up and say, that's not a legit, and it's the only unigov. Take note of that. And it was never actually formally put in place. And those in Indianapolis, Marion County, have the right to stand up and separate that out. All they have to do is armor up so that they have the standing to be able to do it. Okay, for an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries, what did they do? The whole purpose of the unigov was to take the boundaries for City of Indianapolis and to take over the whole county of Marion, right? So as to render it once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments. What are they? Anyway. For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. If you have noticed that the last few attorney generals, that as soon as they come into office, they will pull a lawsuit that's supposed to be for all the people of the state or for that county or city, that they do this big lawsuit, but yet they've got themselves as the main one, and then they get the proceeds from the award and never distributed out to the people within the area. And if you go look and check, you'll see that there's been a few of the attorney generals that while they were in office, that they ensured that there were lawsuits that they got personal gain from. Pay attention. That's something that the business assembly can be able to work with. Okay. Let's see. They've abdicated government here by declaring us out of their protection and waging war against us. So what have they done? Well, not me as us, because I'm an American, but they've waged war against those that are their people, that they're calling their people, U.S. citizens, right? They've waged a war against the people. They've plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. What has happened? There was another toxic spill, but we know that they're plundering the seas because they've the chemicals that Hiroshima, or what was that, in Japan, for a leak in the water, the oil leaks for the Valdez tanker that leaked back, oh my gosh, 80s. I'm revealing age here at this point. But it's also, pay attention, what about Portland? Right? They've allowed that to happen. Look what's going on in Illinois. Right? California is California. But these are things, they're burning down the towns. They're causing the train wrecks. They're causing these things now. They're at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny. Already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. Self-explanatory, right? They've constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. How many in the military how many during that time with the whole shutdown thing, like because they had the National Guard is what was out there at the racetrack. It was the National Guard. And they were there to tell their own brothers and sisters to take this shot. They were there to be that unspoken authority figure of, you're just going to do this and you're going to be happy about it. As all of this is going to mess your whole life up. But they're taking that pay, which we found is far less than what they actually deserve for the sacrifices that they make. They've excited domestic insurrections amongst us and have endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. What's going on right now but all of this? The trans and the having the drag shows and taking children to the drag shows and forcing the children into gender changes. At what point do you say enough is enough, people? In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. That's why he's known as the resident. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislatures to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We've reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity. I hit that word every time. And we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. Okay, so they're interrupting our connections and correspondence. They're affecting cell phone communications. They're affecting email communications. There's times where Gmail does not want to send my emails through to people. So they use emails as well as using technology, the computer, right? Course, and as well as the mail. Okay, so for example, there was a mail envelope that had come for me for paperwork to work on with someone that they requested a green card, which that's fine to ensure that their paperwork is received by me. However, it's going to a post office. So therefore, I'm not saying don't track your paperwork, but I am saying you might think about the green card because it takes longer because I then have, I'm not always at the post office every single day. Okay? So, but then it was that I finally, and I actually had been there the day before, but it was earlier in the day and I hadn't had a chance to get back. So we purposely went back the next day. And it wasn't until then that there was then a yellow slip in there of saying that they actually had been trying to deliver this envelope to me for a couple of days. And I'm like, well, why didn't any other ones that you put a slip in that said that I have a package ready for me that I need to sign for? So, and they're not always sending the mail to people. So unless I've made sure that it's done through priority mail in order to get it back, because a lot of times they're wanting to delay it. So you've got it, that's ways of how they're affecting our correspondence as well. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consiguity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity. You've acquiesced to everything else. Why can't you acquiesce in this one time when you need to? In the necessity, which denounces our separation, and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We're in peace, people. We're supposed to be in peace. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge Pledge. That's a promise that's a stronger than the promise that we've learned today. Today, everybody's quick to make a promise that they're going to do something, but then don't follow through on their promise. They made a pledge. They committed. It was a higher commitment to pledge to each other their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor for this. Because this is we have to get out of the tyrant's controls. Plain and simple. Okay, now the rest of that is all of the signers for all of the signers to the declaration. But I have the link here. That this is the link where I actually pulled it from, and then here is where I've took it from, just did a print from here. It's a PDF of it. Okay. All right. So here are some more additional learning opportunities. You want to go to the state site. We call it the 50 state site. And the educational tab here. I'll go ahead and put copy and paste. Copy and paste. Copy. And paste. Alright, so any comments I'm missing? Alright. Okay, so here is the continuing education page. These tabs are all because it's a long full page, but here's where you can do subsections to break it down. But you can go through Terry Psalm. She's the super countrywide coordinator, as well as the Washington coordinator. She's the one that does the Monday night. She's the moderator with Anna on Monday nights for the call with Anna. And she puts that challenge out there to all new nationals that have papered up to start by just 10 minutes a day. Just 10 minutes a day, spend time on this page. There's a whole vault of information right here to be able to start getting a stronger footing in your knowledge. Okay, so let me go back to that. All right, so then of course is the Sign in America study course. Also, if you're wanting to have access to the vendor card service, private trade banking services, once that becomes available at the state level, there is the link for that. Here as well, the Federation has provided the a training portal. It is from the Federation, so I'm not able to. It's not something I'm able to support. So if you do have issues with it, you'll want the help desk. You'll create a ticket there and do a help desk ticket for it. Help desk ticket is also if you've purchased products on the ASN store, and you had, like if you did the document generator there, and you had an issue, it was a tech issue for whatever reason, you could be able to do a help desk ticket for it. That's been a great tool to help support Indiana, or to help Americans with their paperwork. Here is a link on the 50 state site to open training calls across the country. And for the longest time, I had several open calls to countrywide, but then it was then I decided to pull back to be able to tighten to help support building Indiana and focus Indiana. And those calls that I had done, there are recordings on the Assembly website that you can go back to and look at open calls, outreach calls, things like that. But at this link, you'll see all the current ones of countrywide opening calls that you can go to for training, for more education, for more knowledge. Then, of course, we have the assembly calls, trainings on Wednesdays and Sunday evenings, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. There's like roughly 6 counties in the southwest and northwest of the state that are on the lovely Central Time, and everybody else is Eastern Time. That was for Mitch Daniels. And did you hear Purdue got kicked out of the first round? Okay. You have a husband that was born on Muncie, went to Muncie Central. You're going to have some basketball. Yeah. All right. So let me go ahead and stop screen sharing. It's going to take a moment because of the lag, but I want to go ahead and have an opportunity to see if there are any questions before we wrap up for the evening. Relative to what we talked about at this point on the call. Unless it's a really general question. Wow. I don't know how far the lag is. Oh gosh, that seems like a serious... I didn't set for any kind of lag. Alright, well, I'm not really sure how far in, but I've come... That doesn't seem like it's even finished me going through the Declaration of Independence. That's a serious lag. Okay, so bear with me as I am trying to work out figuring all this technology and get working through it. We'll see how it goes. So, if you have knowledge and experience with this, and you're papered up or armored up, and you want to be able to help support, we can start talking and see how we can be able to get this happen, because I would greatly appreciate some help with doing this aspect of everything. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to call this, because it seems like it's on a major lag, and I just hope that it's not too much for everyone. It seems like a serious, because I've completely read through the whole Declaration of maybe it's just now getting into the Declaration of Independence. Well, I want to wish you all peace and love, and have a great night. I'm going to put a comment in. The lag is seriously late. I have finished reading. Thank you all for taking the time. I'm putting comments in to say thank you. Thank you for being on the call this evening and being here through the start of a difficult part of a conversation. I don't really like to have to deal with that, but it's clear that it is something that does have to be addressed. It's not a trying to bring any kind of blame, but you have to see it for what it is, what it actually is. We've been taught to sugarcoat things so much that we've even come up with our own excuses that are not true, that are lies that we've come up with ourselves. Just so we don't have to see what we're doing ourselves. This time we just got to come to the truth. And always, always, always go to Creator within, ask God within. You know, how can I serve you? What is it that you want me to do? What is it that I need to be? Where do you need me? How can I be of service to you for the Creator? And how is it going to help others so that they can get out of this too? I wish you all love and peace. I send you love and peace. Have a great night. See you on the next call. Lots of love.